DEBx, amplifying voices, accelerating change.
Please help me welcome to the stage, Tiffany Armstrong.
From ages 3 to 13 years old, I was sexually abused. I was just a little girl, and I had no idea that what was happening to me was wrong until I got just a little bit older, but I never stopped it. I didn't know how to. So I took on the belief that I must be worthless. And if I was worthless, I must be weak. And if I was weak, I did not deserve to have a say over my own life. I was a victim in every sense of the definition. But while my abuse ended when I was 13 years old, I continued to live life as a victim up until just 2 years ago. In almost every area of my life, I would back down from sharing my own opinions. And I would set myself up to be taken advantage of by people because that is all I knew. And it's no surprise that I went on to marry 2 men who both verbally and physically abused me. I ended up becoming my own perpetrator, locking myself up in victim mentality. But that is just part of my story. That is not my entire story. And it does not define me anymore. So what broke me out of this cycle? A huge piece of it, believe it or not, was my posture. I know that may sound odd, but let me explain. 7 years after my sexual abuse ended, I was a victim once again. I was attacked by a very large man in college who had snuck into my friend's house during a party. I was walking down the hallway when some hands reached out and grabbed me and dragged me aggressively into the bathroom. He started slamming me up against that door, and his fingers were gripping me so tightly that they were literally inside my skin. I had been in martial arts for 2 weeks at the time, and I had learned 3 basic moves. Well, I used them, and his now broken nose had been introduced to my palm. And I got away, and when the police arrived, they told us that he had been wanted for 2 rapes and an attempted homicide. So needless to say, he and his broken nose went to prison for a very long time. When I saw that 3 simple moves could save my life, I went on to get my 2 different second-degree black belts in street smart self-defense. And I have been teaching both the techniques and the mindset of self-defense for over 19 years now. And then after my attack, when the police mentioned that my attacker had chosen me out of everyone else there, it became my mission to understand how attackers choose their victims, so I started digging into the field of victimology. I came across a study from the National Institute of Mental Health. 2 researchers went into a prison and asked these convicted criminals to watch a video of people walking down the busy streets of New York. The researchers asked one main question: who would you choose as victims? What was fascinating is that almost every single criminal chose the exact same people, and within seconds of laying eyes on them. And what was even more interesting is that they did not choose them based on gender, race, age, or size. There were some very petite women who were not chosen and some very large men who were. So when asked how they chose their victims, there were 2 main reasons. Number 1, it's that the person was distracted. They were walking around on their phones or even deep in conversation with another person. And number 2, it's that the person looked weak, but it wasn't the size of their biceps. It was that they looked weak emotionally. It was all about the vibe their posture was giving off. Their breastbone was down, their eyes were down, and the pace of their gait was slow. These attackers are motivated by their need for power, and when you walk in a powerful posture, you are already showing them that they are not going to win the battle over power with you. I was so intrigued by this study that I took on standing tall as a personal challenge. At first, I felt like I was acting, like it was a mask I was wearing simply with the sole intention of having an attacker not choose me. But fast forward 6 months, something very interesting happened. That confident posture started to feel like home to me. where before people would see me as weak, indecisive, and as a pushover. But now, they see me as a leader. And before living in this posture, a simple business negotiation across the table would be excruciating for me. But now, I look forward to them, and I am very effective. This is the same premise behind why psychologists will tell you that if you're in a bad mood, you should force yourself to smile and even laugh because it turns into actual laughter, releasing the happy chemicals in the body. A shift in posture can have that exact same effect for pulling you out of victim mentality. It is very difficult to feel like a victim when you're standing tall. And it wasn't just me whose mindset shifted through posture. Several years ago, I was a therapeutic postural specialist. It's very similar to the field of physical therapy, where we would work with body posture to help eliminate pain. I conducted an experiment on my patients because I started to notice a very interesting pattern. They would come in once in a while in victim mentality because obviously they were in physical pain. But when I put them in an exercise that required them to stand tall, their language immediately started to shift. They became more resourceful at solving their own challenges, and it even affected their perception of how much pain they were in. I, of course, incorporated these concepts into their daily routines. So why is this actually happening? Research shows that powerful posture releases testosterone in the body, the hormone associated with greater power and confidence. And it also lowers cortisol, the hormone associated with increasing stress levels. And on the flip side, having a poor posture has been tied to depression and fear and has actually been shown to detract from how others view your ability to be a leader. Sadly, the majority of Americans spend an average of only 36% of their workday in good posture. That is potentially a lot of crabby people walking around. And in the animal kingdom, the natural leaders are shown to be the animals with the best posture. Something to think about. So humor me with this exercise. Go ahead and slouch in your chairs. I'm watching you. And tell me the feelings that come to mind. Things like powerless and defeated. Now go ahead and sit tall in your chair, breastbones lifted, chin slightly up, and think about the feelings that come to mind now. Powerful, strong, confident, unstoppable. Might I point out, these are the opposite feelings of victim mentality. Think about the impact of teaching this to our children. So what have we learned here? If you do nothing else, just simply address your posture. For those of you looking to be leaders, you'll be seen as more powerful and confident. And secondly, posture can be the gateway to pulling us out of victim mentality. And if you happen to be in that cycle, start with your posture. The chemicals in your body will shift, and from here you can go out and do things like set healthy boundaries and actually say no, rather than running behind those walls you use to protect yourself with. There is a cost to those walls. We are responsible for our own happiness, no one else. So take that baton back and run with it yourself because you are worth it. I invite all of you to make this confident posture your home, especially when you're in a situation where you're feeling unsure of yourself. Just stand tall. From here, we can not only wipe ourselves off the victim list of a physical attacker, but also wipe ourselves out of victim mentality across all aspects of life. Thank you.